Hello and welcome to the next episode in our series of campervan cooking with a Gaia chicken 2 bullies. Our bullies, Quince and Gyps, are ably assisting me in the kitchen again today. Our campervan cooking series today is being brought to you from Dragon's Rest, which is a farm. It's actually a beef farm in the beautiful town of Underberg. The dish that we're going to be preparing for you today is a semblance of a stroganoff. It's not the typical stroganoff that you would find on recipes on the internet. It's my version of stroganoff. We're using 500 grams of lean beef. You can use sirloin. You can even use rump if you want to. And this beef we've acquired here in the Underberg. I've put that in some red wine, about 1.5 cups of red wine, and I've allowed it to marinate for about 45 minutes. I'm going to show you the additional ingredients that we will be using with my version of today's dish, stroganoff. I have got some button mushrooms, which I have cut up into very small pieces. I have used 2 variations of peppers, some yellow to give it some color, and some green as well, which I've sliced quite thinly. And then my favorite, the onion, which has been finely sliced. And then to that I'm going to just season it with some salt and pepper and some parsley, which we can add at the end. Okay, let's just heat up our pan slightly on about a number 2. I'm not going to be adding any oil or butter today because we've got quite a lot of juice in with the meat along with the red wine. It is a non-stick pan. Let's first fry up our onions. Not necessary to brown these ingredients, as they're all going to be mixed in together, and we're going to allow the dish to cook for about an hour until the meat is tender. I'm going to just add a little bit of the red wine to it just to give it something to cook into. Just coating them with a little bit of the red wine, allow them to get some heat. And then to this I'm going to then add my peppers. As I said, it was about 500 grams of sirloin that I'm using. Bearing in mind it's campervan cooking and I'm only cooking for 2 of us tonight, which is John and myself. And if Quince and Gypsy are lucky, they might get some leftovers. Okay, so I'm coating this very nicely with that little bit of red wine. The peppers are cooking in with the onion. And I'm going to just allow those to cook slightly with the lid on so as not to lose any of the juice. The Underberg is not only renowned for its beef, but it also has quite a lot of dairy farms here. We will be using some very nice cream, which I will get out. It is made here on one of the farms in Underberg. It's a thick cream, and this I will be adding towards the end of the dish. Let's have a look at our onions and our peppers. Okay, I'm going to now add the mushrooms. I'm going to turn my heat down a fraction. Just add a little bit more of this juice. Just coating them again. Because this is a creamy dish, I don't want to add any oil or butter because it just becomes too rich then. So see how we can do this without adding any of that. I'm going to add a little bit of water because there's not a lot of moisture in these vegetables. I'll just put the lid on for now and to add a little bit of water. Probably about 250 mils. And allow that. I'm going to allow that to simmer on low. giving it a stir every so often until the vegetables are cooked through. and then we can add our meat. It's going to allow that to cook for about 5 to 6 minutes. Okay, we're back to having a look and see how our mushrooms and peppers, onion are simmering away here. I'm now going to add the stroganoff with the remainder of the red wine. In that goes. You can see the color of the meat has turned a really lovely pinky color from marinating in the red wine. Okay, now we're going to leave that on very low to simmer for about 40 minutes, and then we can just check and see how the meat is doing. It has been marinated, as I said, so it is quite tender. We're now just going to let everything just lie in the juices and simmer very gently for 40 minutes. Place the lid on there. Another bit of interesting information about Underberg is that the very, very well-known Sani Pass is about 25 kilometers from the town of Underberg. And on Thursday last week, John and I, along with the dogs, undertook an excursion up the Sani Pass and stayed overnight at the Sani Mountain Lodge in the Backpackers. It was a very interesting journey. Our little Suzuki did extremely well. It was very mountainous, very rocky, lots of dongas, and a very, very slow journey. But it was great fun, and we had extreme temperatures up there. There was lots of snow, and the evenings were extremely cold as well. But it was great fun, and we arrived back safely in Underberg. Let's just take one look. See how our beef is doing here. Cooking beautifully. Okay, while this is simmering away, we're going to be serving the stroganoff this evening with some buttered noodles, which I'm going to start preparing in a few minutes. I'm going to be boiling them in some salted water. Once they're cooked, I'm going to be coating them in some butter and some parsley as well, and that will be served with our stroganoff later on. We arrived in the town of Underberg just in time for the autumn colors. Beautiful, beautiful colors, reds, oranges, yellows, greens. And we decided to take a ride out to Kemba Lake and have a look to see what was going on and enjoy the beautiful autumn leaves and the lake and the people. And we had a wonderful time. We had a beautiful walk around the lake with the dogs and just enjoying autumn at its best here in the Underberg. Let's have a look and see how the stroganoff is doing. We've had it on for approximately 35 minutes. To really be able to know whether your meat is tender or not, one would have to taste it, or else take your spoon and just break it through. Okay, my meat is breaking through, so it's pretty tender. I'm going to add the cream now. Just before we add the cream, I said about 40 minutes. It's entirely up to you. If your meat is cut very thinly, it takes less time. Also, if there's less of it, it takes less time. So 40 minutes is probably about the time it would normally take. It could take 35 or 30 minutes. It's up to you to just check and make sure when your meat is tender. There's not an awful lot of juice in here, which is what I want, because I'd like the cream to thicken along with a little bit of sauce that there is. I'll add this now. This was very thick cream. I've just made it slightly thinner. I've added a little bit of milk to it. Delicious farm cream from the Underberg. And because it's Tina's version of stroganoff, I'm not very happy with the color effect in here, so I'm going to add a few tomatoes. Whole cherry tomatoes, which will break down while the beef is still cooking. Okay. To me, a stroganoff should be a vibey dish, and by adding some colour to it from cherry tomatoes, not only flavour, but colour as well. There we go. So probably about 8 or so. I'm now going to add my parsley as well, also for a little bit of flavour and colour. Once again, we're using the dried parsley because we haven't got any fresh parsley. Even the dried parsley gives it not only a nice colour but flavour as well. And then lastly, I'm going to add just a touch of salt. And our all-time favourite pepper. Place the lid back on. Okay, I'm going to open the lid now to see how our stroganoff is doing. Remember, we added some of the cherry tomatoes for some flavour and for some colour. I've added the cream to it, and I've also added some black pepper and salt. And this is what the final dish looks like. It's bubbling away merrily. I don't want to leave it cooking for too long because it doesn't have an awful lot of juice in it. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to turn the heat off on my electric frying pan. I'm going to pop the lid back on. And the secret to this dish is to leave it to stand for about 10 to 15 minutes before you serve, because it will just soak up, the meat will soak up all the juices, the lovely flavors, etc. And we're going to be serving this, as I said, with some buttered noodles and parsley. For this recipe and others, please visit our website www.saroadtrip.com. From us, Guide Chicken to Bullies, on Campervan Cooking. Until next time, cheerio!